Hey guys, Steve Moran here with another episode of Foresight TV. Today I've got my good friend Denise Boudreau, and we are going to unbelievably talk about how to create the perfect culture where everybody loves to come to work every single day. And we're going to cover all of this in 30 minutes or less. Well, maybe a little bit more than 30 minutes. And we should be actually, you probably can't fix it that fast, but we should be able to give you a good start on where to go. But before we get started with our conversation, we're going to run this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Laggy here. I'm going to tell you that to start off with. I've had all kinds of computer problems, and I've got it coming back next week. But Denise, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a company named Drive that works with organizations on improving organizational culture, which is just how we work around here. And there has just been a renewed interest in organizational culture, especially these last few years, because of its impact on recruitment and the ability to retain people and occupancy and revenue and all those other things too. But certainly from the retention and the ability to recruit side, that there's much more interest in culture these days than there ever has been.
So I'm really excited about talking about this topic. Let's talk a little bit about philosophy and attitude first. I tend to think that senior living is such a great place to work that we should have every position full and that people should love coming to work and there should be people standing in line to come to work. Although I don't know, there are a few places where that exists, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel similar. And as you know, I've been in this field a really long time. I was an administrator in ED for 17 years. I was a nursing assistant, dietary aide, been doing this consulting work for 13 years. And so I feel the same. And I truly believe that this is the time that I've been waiting for my whole career, that we are primed as a country and really as a world to have an interest in the work that our field does. People want purpose in their work. We know that, and I truly believe that there is no greater purpose in any field than what we have in senior living and aging services. I mean, we help support and care for and love on people for days, weeks, months, years, and their families as well. And the ability to really bring that purpose out in people's jobs is what's going to save us. It's what's going to help us get through this staffing crisis. I call it a culture crisis that our field and our entire world is having right now. But we could be leading the pack with that if we could tap into the purpose in people's work. Did I make you fall off your chair and you're silent, Steve? I think he's having tech
Yes,
issues.
you did. Yes, you did. So I just think that we've got this amazing opportunity. I actually did a story a couple of weeks ago. I'm sort of obsessed by this. There's a guy here in Sacramento who's an executive director, and he messaged me. He said, "Come over and visit." He said, "I finally went to work for a company where they let me actually go out and lead, and my building is full. I've got a waiting list. My staffing is full, and everything is wonderful." And so I think that's possible for every building in the out there. So why do you think it is that people struggle so much with this?
Well, certainly, I mean, not to sugarcoat everything going on in our world, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors of why there's just less people out there. There's more people that are, starting their own businesses. There's a heck of a lot more, 3 million more people retired over the last couple of years than normally retire. There's people that are working a lot more gig jobs than working full-time employment. So all of those factors, and I don't want to ignore that and just put on rose-colored glasses and say everything's perfect. At the same time, I think that we have, in many ways, kind of just accepted for years what we have. So it was acceptable that we have 50%, 75%, 100. I mean, I've talked to people that said 140% turnover. That's the nature of the beast. Well, if that's how you go into it with this, that's the nature of the beast. The chances that you're going to get really creative on problem solving and looking for different ways to tackle this are pretty slim. And so that's an extreme, that 140%, but is even 50% of turnover, is that acceptable? Is 40% acceptable? Why is our field so much higher than others? And so really to kind of start to look at that, I have people that'll say to me, we're struggling so much with staffing. And I'll actually say to you, it's the majority of people that I talk to. And then I ask them, well, what's your turnover? And they'll say, it's bad. And I'll say, well, what's bad? It's really bad. They don't even know the amount of turnover they have in the organization. And I just can't imagine showing up and not knowing what your occupancy is or what your bottom line is, right? That data, and yet the number that's driving occupancy, the number that's driving your finances, people really struggle to have information on that. And that is one of the things that I think is just an easy start for us. Like, know your data. Are people leaving within 30 days? Are they leaving within 10 days? That's a different problem than people leaving 6 months in or 2 years in. And so to really know what you're dealing with, how many applications is quote unquote normal for you? Is the number going up or down based on the tweaks and changes that you've made? And so, how much I love this field, but I think we've done a lot of victim mentality. And I don't say that with judgment. It's easy to be a victim because there's a lot working against us. But at the same time, if we're going to get out of this, we have to say, okay, what we've been working and doing is doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. Maybe it did before, it certainly doesn't now. And we need to change the way that we are going out there and leading. So we're keeping people, and we need to change the way that we're recruiting, because our whole world has changed these last few years.
So one of the things I hear people say, I want to come back to this data thing for just a little bit. One of the things I hear people sometimes saying is that we don't actually keep track of our turnover until after they've been past 90 days, because the first 90 days is where most of the turnover happens. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, is that the most ludicrous thing ever? Right? It's like, I'm not going to get on the scale until I'm over, 300 pounds. Then I'll start worrying about it. I mean, it's ludicrous. So if your problem is keeping people, and you have an issue, right? Just the fact you're not measuring it tells you, because you have an issue, that doesn't solve the problem, not measuring it, right? I mean, that's just putting a Band-Aid or a sticker over it and saying, I don't want to see that information. Why not say, well, let's look at it?
Yeah. Well, and I think it'd be a little bit like saying, well, I'm actually not going to count a unit as being occupied now after it's been occupied 90 days. I guarantee you nobody is doing that. That the day after, if somebody moves into a unit, that becomes an occupied unit. And so it just makes no sense at all. So we actually promised. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. I was going to say, our head in the sand.
Well, no, go ahead. Finish what you were going to say. And then I want to jump to our questions.
Yeah. Our head in the sand doesn't solve the problem. It just creates a bigger problem. So why not look at that 90 days by department, by position, by shift? Are you seeing themes? Are you seeing trends? We worked in an organization that was the largest provider in the state at the time. And we saw a trend. The highest, the time that their chefs and their cooks left the organization was 10 days. 10 days, that was the highest point of their chefs exiting. That gives you some information that something upon hiring is not going right. And orientation, something's going wrong there, right? We can focus in on that and do something about it if we can narrow in on that problem.
I see so many parallels between how we recruit students and how we recruit team members. We had a conversation at the beginning of the week with the folks at Welcome Home on some data that they had put together. And one of the big parts of the conversation was the number of unqualified leads that people had to go through. And so I wonder if there's sort of the same thing as how do you, is a big part of the problem perhaps how we actually recruit, how we set expectations for new employees, or how we tell the story, and that causes those turnovers at after 10 days.
Yes. Yes. There we go. So yes, absolutely. And there's research that shows if you say to an employee, like, it's fabulous here. We have such great teamwork. There's high accountability. You're going to love working here. And then I start day one and everyone's evil to me. Nobody helps me. I'm out there floating alone as the new person, right? Everyone's kind of doing whatever they want to do. The picture that's been painted to me and what I'm actually experiencing are completely different. I'm likely not going to stay. However, if you upfront say, and it's interesting, I shared this advice years ago with somebody who was head of a dining services department. And she said, I tried doing it and it was unbelievable, the difference in people staying, because she was saying to people, we're really working on building a team here. So we see in you that you would be a great part of that team. We want you to be a foundation of that team. And so that's what we're working towards. We're not there yet, but we want you to be part of building it with us. And now I come in with a different mindset of like, yes, I could help build this. And so someone's not, the nicest to me day one, I've sort of already know that is going to happen. And I'm thinking about helping to make it better rather than, they lied to me, and what else are they going to lie to me about? And I'm out.
Yeah, I think that friend Russell Rush, who's one of probably the best senior living salesperson I know, when he moves people into very sort of modern middle market senior living communities, they're really, really happier than for a lot of other people. And so much of that is about setting proper expectations. So for instance, he doesn't tell them they should expect a 4-star meal every day. He says, meals are going to be a little bit like it is at home. There are going to be some days where you love it. And you know what it was like when you were growing up, right? There were some days mom served your Brussels sprouts and you didn't like that so much. And this is your home. And so that's what it's going to look like. And it turns out that is setting those modest expectations actually makes things better rather than worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and I both went out to social media earlier in the week, and we told people that we were going to be on here today and ask them if they had any questions. And we didn't get a lot of response, but we got some amazing questions.
Yeah.
So what's up first?
Yeah. So may I add that Steve said, please give us all your hard questions for Denise to answer. So we got hard questions.
I did.
And so hard that I had to take notes on how to answer them, which I don't typically do. But I wanted to be prepared because they were really, like you said, they were really great questions. And I just want to, Steve, for what you just said too about the expectations piece. If you remember when you and I went to a Tony Robbins event together, he said happiness, the formula for happiness is expectations equal reality. And so if we're setting expectations for up here and reality is down here, you're going to have unhappy people, right? And so how can we balance those things out? All right. So the first question we got was from one of my dear friends and clients, Bill, awesome at Living Communities. And she said, our number one goal is to have 100% of care provided by our own team members. Agencies aren't bad, but they're strangers, and that impacts residents and team members in a very negative way. We're making progress, but have a long way to go. It sometimes feels like one step forward, 2 steps back. What practices do you recommend to get agency out and remain agency free? So I know for a fact, because they've measured their culture, that Jill has one of literally the best cultures in the world compared to any industry. And so they're doing incredible work over there. I know for a fact that her turnover rates and so forth are lower than what our field, but I also know that their expectations are much higher. So when she says one step forward, two steps back, it makes me think that maybe they're losing people soon after they hire them. It's kind of some of what we were just talking about. So the first thing I would do is to make sure that you know that data and that it's broken down as kind of granular as you can be to identify trends. So the smaller you can break it down by department, by shift, where are things happening? And so I'm just going to give you kind of some quick things that you all can think about. Certainly for you all, Jill, but also for other people listening to this. If you're losing people quickly, so certainly know the data. Think about having someone neutral sit in on your orientation. I have sat in on orientations. We have some consultants here at Drive that have sat in orientations at good organizations, right? We work with good organizations, and we've sat in them, and it's overwhelming. It's overwhelmingly negative. And so it turns into a list of all the ways you can get fired. It turns into like all the things that you can do wrong in the organization. And so think about sitting in that orientation or getting a neutral person to sit in on that orientation and just observe. There are so many beautiful things happening. Can you be sharing stories of things that are happening around purpose, right? If you need some help with great storytelling, I know, Steve, you have some resources. We have some resources for our clients. Share stories of the good stuff that are happening in your organization. Yes, I know you have to get to the mandatory stuff, but nobody wants to have day one job be, here's the 21 ways that you can get fired, right? So I want to think about creating a nest to protect new people. I literally think about it as building this like little protection like you would around an egg. So not just the supervisor of that person, but might it be a peer in their same department? Might it be somebody from a different department? Might it be a supervisor from a different department? So if you're losing people quickly, end of day one, someone comes in and says, hey, Steve, how was your day? What went well today? What could have gone better? What can we do for you tomorrow to help make your day even better, right? Maybe somebody on day two is going to be from a different department, right? This doesn't have to be HR's job. It doesn't have to be the supervisor's job. We're building a nest because maybe it's not going to be me that Steve's going to tell something to. It might be somebody else that comes in and asks him a day later that he feels more comfortable with. So make sure that you have that little nest around people. Make sure that new staff know a person is coming. Gosh, I hear this all the time in focus groups from staff. They hire people, we don't even know they're coming. And so I show up at work and somebody says, hey, here's Steve, you're going to orientate him today. And now I'm kind of annoyed because I had a busy day already planned. And now they've dumped Steve on me and I don't got time for Steve. And so do I tell my supervisor that? Maybe. More likely, I'm going to torture poor Steve because I'm going to take my anger out on him. So make sure that you have people that are going to be this welcoming kind of vibe that this new person's going to get, and that you're telling people that this new person is even starting, because if not, they take it out on that new person. So that's just a few quick things that you can think about for if you're losing staff quickly. And that's kind of what I'm hearing in we take one step forward, two steps back.
The thing that occurs to me here is that the very first thing that's going to happen is when that person goes to work for the first day, they're going to go home to their kids, their significant other, and what's the first thing that significant other person is going to ask?
How was your day?
Exactly. How was that first day? And if to me, it seems like it would be really cool if as you went into your orientation, you set as a goal for that first day or that first week that every day when they would come home and they got asked that question, they would go, it was amazing. I've never worked in a place like that before.
Yes. Yes. And so, you know, our dear friend, Randy Brown from Roundtree Gardens out in California, and he's a client of ours. And we did some work for him, the Rockstar Replication program. And what we were trying to do was replicate his rock stars a few years ago. And so we looked at his orientation, we looked at onboarding, we looked at how they were hiring people and so forth. And they worked so hard on this. And it was, but it's fun. It's also fun to think of creative ways to make these things more rewarding for people. And one of the things that they came up with was they started giving employees at the end of day one a meal from the kitchen to say, hey, we know your first day at work is hard. You're probably tired. Here's dinner for your family. And they stopped it during COVID. And I just talked to him this week and he said, we just restarted it up. And he goes, it's unbelievable. People are like blown away. I can't believe I've never worked for a place that did this, right? That's the kind of stuff someone's going to take a picture of and post it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever and share with their friends, right? Because it's completely different. And you have to think about Dan and Chip Heath, the authors that I love, have a book called The Power of Moments, which is really fabulous to think about when you're thinking about the hiring experience, orientation, onboarding, anything that you're working on in your organization. And in The Power of Moments, they talk about look out for soul-sucking reasonableness. Soul-sucking reasonableness. What is that? Soul-sucking reasonableness is, it's really hard to give someone a meal at the end of the first day because who knows what their family likes and whatever and blah, 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 blah. Let's just give them a gift card for $20 to McDonald's, or let's just give them a gift card, right? But it doesn't have that impact that it has of here's a meal for your family, right? So that's creating a moment. And so that's just one example. Another thing is, and think about how this is their organization. So it might not work in yours. You might have a different way to do it. But in the beginning, when they first started this, the people in dining services were fighting over who got to give the new employee their meal because they loved to see their faces and how surprised they were. So it's a win for current employees and a win for new employees. They also were founded, their organization was founded by the guy who just created Rolos, the candy, and one other candy, I can't remember, Twix or something like that. And so how cool is that story and orientation to come in and hear that story and about this guy that wanted to get back to his community and get Rolos and whatever else, right? And so it wasn't even in the orientation. And I just think it's the freaking coolest story ever. So adding things like what makes your organization unique? Was it founded by a son that wanted to have better care? And there's so many companies out there like there for a grandmother or a mother and wanted things to be different. Was it founded by a church 150 years ago that wanted to take care of widows or whatever? Who knows, right? But there's a great story someplace behind your organization. That's the stuff you want to be calling out in your orientation.
Yeah. So I love this. As you know, and a lot of our viewers know, I teach kids at my church on the weekends, right? And one of my signature things that I do is I carry a pocket full of bubble gum. And so even the kids who have graduated past the age group that I'm teaching, every week I have kids coming up to me. I actually was at their church school to do a talk last weekend. And I felt so badly because afterwards, a bunch of these kids came up. Do you have gum? Do you have gum? And I didn't have any with me in my pocket. And so those signature things, but I'm just thinking, man, they should be giving out Rolos
Yes.
in their orientation, right? I mean, it would just be amazing. I actually want to take a pause here and do a quick we've got a bunch of freebie stuff that we're going to offer you today that'll be available for download. But the first one I actually want to talk about is not a freebie. I want to remind you that in a few weeks, we are going to be hosting the Evolve Summit for Life Enrichment Directors. We believe that life enrichment is the one thing that senior living does, creating these life experiences that you can't get at home no matter how much you do. And so we are going to be talking about how to create these great experiences, how your life enrichment directors can do this. It's a virtual event. Denise is keynoting for us. This is all about helping people to be more inspired, to have new ideas. You can find the link at Senior Living Foresight in the events section. We would love to have you there. If you're part of a larger organization, we're making some amazing group deals. And so we would love to have you be part of that. And then before we're done, Denise has got a free resource that we're going to offer up. And we have a free marketing resource I'm going to make available to you as well. And so, Denise, let's go back. We have a couple more questions, right?
Yes. So somebody else asked, for communities that do use staffing agencies, right? It's not ideal, but that's your reality. That's fine. What apps or sorry, not what apps, do you have advice on how to integrate new temporary employees without distracting from your culture? So culture, just as a reminder, is how we work around here. That's it. So if I come in as an agency employee, am I treated rudely? Am I treated like here's all the worst tasks to do? Am I treated with kindness? Does somebody welcome me? Is somebody actually glad that I'm here? I years ago did some work with an organization, and when they would interview people, someone would come in for an interview. They would say, hey, Steve, welcome. We're so glad you're here for your interview. Would you like something to drink or something to eat? And they felt like that is how you would welcome someone into your home. You should welcome someone like that into your organization. And every focus group that I did, people would mention, do you know when I came here for my job interview? And they would talk about that. So think about applying that to someone from agency. Do they feel that sense of warmth and welcome? And then they're going to extend that to how they interact? Or it's kind of like this, and guess how I act, right? If I'm treated like, I'm the plague, if I'm treated like I'm offering a disservice to people here, guess how I'm going to interact with your staff? Guess how I'm going to interact with the people that I'm caring for in your organization? Very similar, because that's how we work around here. So I'm going to very quickly assimilate to however that is. I went to a not even a fancy hotel the other night, and I got there a day early, parked my car, and I said, hey, is it okay if I park my car even though I'm not checking into tomorrow night? They said, yeah, no problem. And they said, when is your flight today? 5. And the guy said, I'll drive you. It wasn't time for the shuttle even. He drove me 22 minutes to the airport, which means he had to drive 20 minutes home. And the next night when I got there, it was a completely different shift, and I checked in, and the guy was so nice. And so every single person I interacted with was so over the top kind and just loving. And it literally was how they worked around there. That was the culture. And I want you to think about that, even for the people at our agency. What is the feeling they're getting? Arm's length, or we are welcoming you. Thank you for being part of our family, even if it's just for today, right? So thinking about that. And I know it's hard for some people, but the other choice is that you get them interacting with your staff in a negative way, and they're bringing that to the people that you serve. Oh, you're on mute.
If we just spend a little more time saying, how can we make people feel good when they interact with me?
Yes.
Just little acts of kindness just makes all the difference in the world. And the truth of the matter is that it's almost easy to do because the world's not a very kind place anymore.
Yeah.
And so the contrast when you actually do that with your team members is huge. It's really incredible. So.
And you think about this person having this experience, maybe they're going to come work for you. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. But you know what they're going to tell their friends? That was a fabulous place to be part of. Or, damn, those people are miserable over there. You do not want to go work for them, right? And so to your point, Steve, you're putting out good in the world for whatever comes of it, that's going to come back to you. And, I want to share with you I referenced the giving the meal away at the end of orientation. And also for this question about what can you do for your agency staff, I want to share with you an exercise. Steve, you and I have used this before when we've done groups together that I just love. And you could use it for this particular thing, how to welcome agency and more, but you can use it for anything. You can use it for orientation. You could use it for onboarding. You could use it for recognition programs that you want to do. It's called the 11-star experience. Airbnb credits their success in the world to this experience, or this exercise. And so the 11-star experience starts out with, what does a 5-star experience look like? So let's say we think of an agency person. What's a 5-star, a decent experience? The person comes in, somebody knows they're coming in, right? They're expecting this person to come in. It's clear what area they're working on, right? That's probably a basic of what's expected for an agency person coming in. What would a 6-star experience look like? Maybe a 6-star experience is the person comes in, someone actually greets them by name. Hey, Steve, are you, are you Steve with XYZ agency? We're so glad you're here. Hey, you're going to be over in working in this area. Maybe a 7-star experience would be like, hey, Steve, it's so glad you're here. You know what? Denise is going to help you kind of orientate a little bit, and she's waiting for you, and you could just make a left right there, and she's going to be there waiting for you, right? And we've got someone waiting for you. And maybe an 8-star experience that looks like that, and it's a little bit more over the top though, right? We've got a meal waiting for you, and everybody comes up to greet you, right? And then you keep on going up this star thing until it gets to the point of ridiculousness. Maybe a 10-star experience is, as an agency person, someone comes and picks you up in a limo and they bring you to the organization. And while you're there, people are cheering for you as you walk in the door that you have arrived. Yeah. And there is filet mignon and there is surf and turf for you, right? We're so glad that you're here. An 11-star experience is, once you get off of work, Elon Musk is there waiting for you in the parking lot to take you in to see the moon so you can see that at the end of your shift, right? It's complete ridiculousness. But what happens when you go through that exercise of, here's the basic, we at least know the person showing up today, to Elon Musk is whisking me off? In there, you find some things like, that's kind of possible. And that's even where that meal thing came from. Like, it was probably something along the lines of like, we have, Gordon Ramsay show up and cook your favorite meal for you. Well, maybe we can have Gordon Ramsay, but could we do that? Right. And so you wind up backing up a little bit and finding something that works. Every time I've done this with people, first of all, it's just fun. People love to dream. There's no budget. There's no rules. There's no regulations. And then something magical happens. They realize, I could do that. I had someone do this for orientation, and they said, people would have orientation from home. They would be laying in bed and they wouldn't even have to come to work for orientation. And then somebody else raised their hand in the room. They said, we have people actually start orientation at home and they just tell us how many hours they work. How cool would that be in a job ad, right? Do your orientation from your own bed. Maybe you can mail them a little package of stuff that they could have, snacks to eat while they're doing orientation from their bed, right? So we can really think of things that are realistic even within this dream state.
Yeah, I think back to, I was wandering through a building, a senior living community, and I stopped in the break room and I just asked the team members who were sitting there, what would make your job better? And it's something that people are afraid to ask because they think they're going to ask for big, unreasonable things. And it was such simplest stuff. It's, if you ask me to work an extra shift, say thank you. Give me maybe a $5 a Starbucks card just to let me know that I really went to the extra effort and that you appreciate it. And I think the appreciation part is the part that honestly doesn't gets missed, and it becomes this vicious downward cycle. Well, why should I tell them thank you because they didn't work very well anyway? And then you treat them badly and they say, well, I'm not going to work very hard because you didn't show appreciation for what I did do. And it's just,
yeah. And you get into the spiral. My favorite is when people say, we paid them overtime. Now I got to thank them for working overtime. And then I can show you quote after quote over quote from focus groups where somebody said, one of them that stands out to me, he said, I worked 100 hours in this payroll and nobody even said thank you to me. And so to your point, that little bit, and then there's organizations that say, you know what, you're staying and you're working 3 to 11, we're going to send some pizza home for your family so they don't have to think about what to cook, right? Or what would help you and to make it easier for you to stay, right? Because otherwise what people say is, well, then, you know what, forget this. I'll go work for an agency for my second job, or I'll go work at another organization for my second job, or I'll leave you altogether, right? There's so much work out there right now. If you've ever thought they get paid, please remove that. I don't know, shock yourself or something. What was that thing in Men in Black where they have that thing that you look at, the light that you look at, and take that out of your brain? Okay. It is not enough for people to get paid. There are a lot of places paying, and there's probably a lot of places paying more than you do. So the ability that someone say, hey, Steve, you know what? I know you've got kids at home. I know you're working through to 11. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, right? You're missing your son's soccer game to be here for us. I really appreciate it. Or you know what? Hey, Steve, you and 2 other people, you all worked more overtime than anybody these last few weeks for us. I would love for you to come have lunch with me, or whatever it might be, right? Something that's going to be some form of recognizing this person or
Yeah,
people.
and it's got to be big. It's got to be big enough that it makes a difference. I'm normally a big fan of Delta, although over the last few months I've had some really bad experiences. And one of the things that happened is I was flying to Florida for a conference, and my flight got delayed all day long. And so in an act of, I don't know what their thinking was. They gave me a $15 food voucher. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know where I can find even a single meal for a $15 food voucher. And so instead of making me feel happy about Delta, it actually made it worse, because I
Yeah.
thought, how can you be so clueless to offer me something that has so little value after you've destroyed my day? And so
Yes.
make sure that those things you're doing actually are things that people are going to go, oh man, that is really cool. And I've seen so many posts on Facebook, on some Facebook groups, where, particularly for life enrichment people, where they talk about the things their employers have done to say thank you that are insulting, and they talk about it, and that means then their friends are not going to come want to work for you.
Yes. Yes. And it, and it just doesn't mean a bigger gift, right? So if you're saying, okay, $15, we'll do 100 instead, that even isn't enough. What people want is the message behind that more than anything, right? And we
That's
know
right.
from and Steve and I have done some work with this as well, but the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. We know that giving gifts is only the primary love language of 6% of your staff. That means for 6% of your staff, their primary way that they want to feel that they feel valued is receiving a gift. The other ways to do it: words of affirmation, quality time, spending time with the person, acts of service, doing something with them. The other one, if you're wondering, is touch, which is like this, high five, and so forth. So if you're going to do something like give a gift card, it's not going to be enough unless it's tied to something like me saying to Steve, hey, Steve, this probably isn't much, but I want you to know how much I appreciate you being here. I know you're missing your son's soccer game for it. Here's, 20 or 15, even if you kept it at the 15, right? Here's $15 to go. I'm trying to think of the ice cream place, and I can't think of the ice cream place. Dairy Queen.
Baskin Robbins?
Baskin
Dairy
Robbins.
Queen.
To take
Yeah.
your son out after his soccer game, when you get home, or tomorrow or whatever, and for you guys. And then I go back maybe and check in with Steve and say, hey, did you guys go to Dairy Queen last night or whatever, right? It's going to be that connection with people that makes a difference.
Yeah.
If you don't have a strong relationship, if there is not respect there, and you give a gift card, you're like, really? I'm worth $15. Me not being there for my son is worth $15, right? That's what happens, as opposed to, if I really support you, have your back, I'm there for you, there's a mutual level of respect, there's a relationship between us, and I give you something and I say to you, I wish it was $1 million because that's what you deserve, right? That's not going to feel like an insult. It's going to feel like real appreciation, because it's coupled with that that's real strength of feeling value.
Yeah. And the one thing I would add to that, and we're about out of time here, we could probably do another hour on this easy, but the one thing I would add is that when you say those things, you actually have to mean it.
Yes.
You can't say, oh yeah, I know it's not really worth it, but people can tell whether it's where your heart is. And I guess for me, the biggest thing is that there are really 2 things that it really comes down to, is making sure that you actually believe in your team members. I mean, assume the best in them, and then just start thinking about what to do to delight them, and it makes it so great thing. We got a couple free resources for us. We're going to start with yours, Denise. So you have got a what?
So we've got a free ebook. It's 65 ways that you can recruit and retain people. Oh my gosh, it's short. It's just action packed. And these are literally the things that we do with our clients. People have lowered their turnover because of it. They've improved their recruitment because of it. And so it's on our website, cultureoutcomes.com, that free ebook. And it is just a quick way to some of these things I share, but there's 65 ideas in there that you can put into place immediately.
Cool. And then the other resource we have for you is that we believe that the way you grow your businesses, whether you're a senior living operator or a vendor company, is you've got to be on social media. And one of the things I hear as I talk to people about social media is I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't know how to make this happen. I have put together a free resource that is titled How to Find the Time and Energy for Social Media. You can scan that QR code there and you can download that, take a look at it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear the results of you using that. Denise, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having
these conversations. I just feel badly that we don't have more time. We will have to do this again soon. And yeah. So I would say, just for my friends at Leading Age Washington, for those of you who are going to be there, both Denise and I will be there talking. I'm actually talking about a very difficult topic. And that is the lack of racial diversity in the senior living C-suite. And so I hope you come join that. And what am I missing here that I should say? How do we find you, Denise?
Cultureoutcomes.com. My email is denise@cultureoutcomes.com. I see, Craig, that you wrote. Craig, I've not forgotten about you. I have answers for you. I'm going to do videos for each one of your questions because I thought they were fabulous, and I think it'll help a lot of people. So I'll get those. I'll post those to you. And I also, Craig, I did something special for you that I'll let you know in a private message. Awesome.
Cool. Denise, thank you very much. Have a great, for you and everybody. So first, Jada, who runs everything behind the scenes. Thank you for making things run smooth and for keeping me and us on track. Have a great holiday weekend. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making the world of senior living better for the people who live and work in senior living. Denise, hang on for just a second when we're done. And with that, we will say goodbye today.